Previously on, did I get what I paid for?
Okay, computer. Messages.
You actually got 2 messages. 2. And a live feed awaiting connection.
Yeah. Oh, the L have and respect to my Christmas party.
My name is Shauna. I'm calling on behalf of the Society for the Preservation of Advertising Jingles. I'd like to...
Computer, next message.
The chains I made in life. You'll be visited by 3 ghosts to help you change your ways. And the next movie up is Flintstones Christmas Carol.
Ugh. Also known as Big Business 1929. Who knows what evil lurks in the heart of internet critics? Let me guess. You're here to show me my past and make me love Christmas. That's not what I'm here for. The year was 1983. Like many kids your age, you had a mild iron deficiency. Well, so your parents thought you vitamins, so you would be. We're gonna review the next movie. Of the 10 million and speaking of the past, that would be
The Flintstones Christmas Carol.
also known as 8 Crazy Nights.
Come forth and know me better, man.
Let me guess. You're the ghost of Christmas present, and you're here to show me what's going on right now to make me love Christmas. The hat concludes our poetry reading. I'm so glad I missed this.
Well, if seeing Torgo in dire straits doesn't ease the situation, how about Matt?
Come on, boy, do your thing so I can go inside and go get some Sprite cranberry. I can see that. Oh, Tiny Tim. Now you poop?
Tell me, Spirit, does Tiny Tim ever get potty trained?
If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, all of my species will find him, leaving you presents in the hallway.
Whatever. I better get started on my review.
Of Flintstones Christmas Carol?
Also known as Yoki's All-Star Comedy Christmas Caper. The holiday season is almost over, and I still haven't watched Flintstones Christmas Carol, so all is well. Let me guess. Ghost of Christmas Future? Let's get this over with. Did I get what I paid for? How could you even ask that question? Really, I don't care how much you gave me, and some of you did. I could have charged you quadruple the amount I made, and it was quite a bit, and it wouldn't have been enough to get my money's worth. Look, I liked the first one. It's a fun Christmas movie. 10 to 15 years ago, that would have been a controversial statement. It's not anymore. But this, it's the same movie at an airport. Well, it's the same movie if you swap out a brilliant and almost effortless performance by Alan Rickman with William Sadler suffering from terminal boredom. And while it was shot in Colorado, it was set at Dulles Airport, So why couldn't the plane that blew up be an international flight? Watching Calamini trying not to sound Irish is more
Never
painful than
mind.
having a dry turd pop a
Did I
hemorrhoid.
really stoop that low?
The only
Spirit,
real
show me
saving
someplace
grace
else.
of the movie is Sergeant
Show me my
Happy
office.
Powell.
My writer
I
is
never
Symptom
thought I'd hear
Sanctorum.
myself say this, but this movie suffers from a Reginald Dill Johnson deficiency.
What's that smell? Tiny Tim? Before I draw nearer to reviewing Die Hard 2, answer me this. Are these the shadows of things that will be? Or are they the shadows of things that may be only? Because if I can't change any of this, what's the point of showing them to me at all? I promise to honor the Flintstones and try to keep them all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirit of all three strive within me. They yabba dabba do. I will not shut out the lessons they teach. Take me back to Matt's apartment. I'll watch the goddamn movie. You happy now? Flintstones Christmas Carol, also known as Flintstones Christmas Carol. Our story begins with a snowy day in Bedrock. There's a rampage at the local mall. Even Salvation Army Santas are getting trampled. But I don't give a damn about that. If you think their homophobic behavior is bad now, just imagine what it must have been like 500,000 years ago. Everyone in town is excited about a new play at the Bedrock Community Theater. It's a production of A Christmas Carol. In spite of never showing an interest in acting before, Fred is playing Ebenezer Scrooge, the lead role. Wilma is in charge of costumes, and stage direction, and hair, and makeup, and just about everything, really. Most of the cast and crew have come down with the bedrock bug. It's a Chinese virus. Fred has been rehearsing non-stop for weeks. So much so that he doesn't realize he's been slacking off around the house and ignoring his family, especially Arf! 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 Dino. Dogosauruses aren't that much different than dogs, so he reacts by destroying Fred's costume. Getting it fixed is going to make Fred late for work. After all, on his way there, he's got to drop Pebbles at daycare. Cave care. While he's there, he talks the play up to the teacher. She says he's already mentioned it about 100 times. Bam Bam is rehearsing for his role as well. His only lines are, "God bless Mr. Scrooge, God bless us everyone," which is pretty advanced for a cave person. The first monotheistic religion formed about 4,000 years ago. Fred gets yelled at for rehearsing at work. Mr. Slate's secretary says she can't wait to rehearse their love scene. Yeah, I bet Wilma's thrilled about that. Since it's Christmas Eve, Mr. Slate lets everyone off for the day at lunchtime. He's not a complete idiot, which is probably why he didn't get the role of Scrooge. This gives Fred and Barney more time to rehearse. Much like everything else he's ever done in his entire life, Fred has dragged Barney into this. He's playing Bob Cratchit. Fred, on the other hand, is an asshole. He constantly annoys his co-workers with his incessant rehearsing and even abuses his dino crane. Fred realizes he's been so busy with the play, he forgot to buy presents. He runs to the mall. He gets a bunch of horrible last-minute Christmas gifts.
and Cecil have to wait in line. That's what life was like 502,000 years before Amazon, folks. And there's another line to get things wrapped. Fred sees a kid who looks familiar to him. He notices he has a much lower number than Fred. He hands him his presents and some extra money and says, "Take my stuff, get it wrapped. I've got to get to the theater. Use whatever's left and get yourself some Bronto burgers." Racing to the show, Fred gets pulled over by the cops. He says he'll never speed again. The cop says, "Relax, Fred. It's me, Officer Philo Quartz. I play the ghost of Christmas Future. Just slow down and I won't write you up." In all the excitement, Fred forgets about Pebbles. He stops home for a snack. When I was watching this, Ralph and I had a bet going over whether he was going to have Cocoa Pebbles or a push-up pop. Neither of us won. He slipped on the ice. He found a note from Wilma saying that she took all the costumes and stuff down to the theater and she'll see Fred and Pebbles there. And even after finding the note, can you guess what Fred forgot? Yep. And boy is Wilma pissed. Lucky for them, Barney is Fred and Wilma's emergency contact. He was already there picking up Bam Bam, so when Fred didn't show, he took Pebbles and Bam Bam to the theater. Wilma says it's all Fred's fault, but it's not like Fred doesn't have a history of 166 similar incidents or anything. She should have known that was coming and had Barney do it in the first place. Betty gets Fred and Mr. Slate ready for the play. Wait, Mr. Slate is in the play. Is the entire cast made up of people Fred knew before he became an actor? That doesn't make much sense, does it? Speaking of not making sense, this series is set between 65 million and 500,000 years ago. Jesus, regardless of your beliefs about him, was born between 6 and 4 BCE. A Christmas Carol was written in 1843 CE, so they're performing the story 498,157 years before it was even written. At 17 minutes into our 70-minute movie, we get to the part of the Flintstones Christmas Carol that portrays Charles Dickens' immortal Christmas Carol. Our story within a story begins with Fred and Barney reenacting the tale with a traditional discussion of fair treatment of labor and the upper class's insistence that making sure their employees aren't homeless is class warfare. It only gets worse when the charity collector shows up. There's that famous Dickens phrase, "If they'd rather die, they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population." It's hard, but not impossible, to do a Christmas Carol without the line. But you see variations on it in all the great versions. The one with Albert Finney, George C. Scott, Bill Murray, and Patrick Stewart. It's even in the Muppet Christmas Carol. But in that movie, they didn't give the line to Kermit. Hearing the words come out of the mouth of Fred Flintstone is so fucking bizarre. Fred's nephew Ned shows up. He's not that important of a character, but he reminds us that Scrooge had a sister. That becomes important later. Sorta. Other than that, there's not much to him. Scrooge is walking home. Some kid throws a snowball at him and destroys his hat. On Christmas Eve, most people would take that in stride. But not Scrooge. Ever the lover of slave labor, he tells the kid he won't call the cops and press charges if he agrees to shovel the snow off the sidewalk. Scrooge gets visited by Jacob Mr. Slate. He tries to warn him though. One day, being a mean little shit is gonna come back and bite him in the ass. he's gonna get visited by 3 ghosts. Scrooge, buddy, I've had that experience. I rate it 3 out of 10. Would not recommend. The curtain falls. This was originally a TV movie, so I suspect that's for a commercial break. Fred and Barney are talking backstage. Everyone is heckling each other. Wilma and Betty go looking for the actress who plays the ghost of Christmas past. It turns out she's got the bedrock bug. Wilma is the only person who can fit in the costume. As stage manager, she's memorized most of the lines, so they send her out there. At least the Flintstones have the excuse that germ theory hadn't been invented yet. If you're dealing with sick people's clothes, wash them, and then wash your fucking hands. Unless you like catching nasty viruses during a pandemic. The play starts up again. Fred wants to know what's going on. Why is Wilma taking the part? The curtain rises and they try to whisper in order to avoid airing their marital problems on stage. The ghost shows Scrooge his school days. All the kids are coming home from boarding school, aside from him. He's got to stay there and reread the plays of William Shakespeare. Again. It's like that every year until one day Scrooge's sister shows up. She says their father isn't an abusive dick anymore and he can come home. She promises him she'll never leave him. And then she dies. We flash forward to when Scrooge is in his late teens or early 20s. He's working for Fezziwig, who is played by Barney Rubble, who is also Bob Cratchit. I don't know why. Maybe the Great Gazoo got the bedrock bug or something. Fezziwig is having a party for his employees. He introduces Scrooge to his goddaughter, Belle. You remember Mr. Slate's secretary with the hots for Fred? That was supposed to be her part, but she got the bedrock bug. So that's Wilma's job as well. We cut to a year later, and Fred and Belle are about to get engaged. They don't have much money, but they're going to try to make the most of it anyway. Well, until the next scene, which is a year later. Scrooge has become so hell-bent on getting them the money they need for a home and other essentials that he stopped spending time with Belle at all. She's gotten so fed up with this shit that she leaves him. Congratulations, Belle! You have more sense than Wilma Flintstone! Backstage, Fred wants to know what's up with Wilma. Her performance seemed a bit too real. He can't figure out why. He apologized for forgetting to pick up Pebbles, and she has some really nice Christmas presents waiting for her under the tree, and holy shit, he forgot the presents. They're still at the mall. This is one of those plays with a long intermission, so he runs back, but it's closed. So he breaks in. He looks all over hell and can't find the presents. So he thinks the kid must have stolen them. On his way out of the mall, Fred runs into the ghost of Christmas Future. So he runs back to the theater, only the ghost turns out to be the cop from before. He wants to help Fred by clearing the streets with his siren. Wilma is mad he's late, but Fred has to rush out on stage. The ghost of Christmas Present shows up. He shows Scrooge Bob Cratchit's house. Things aren't going well for his family, which for some reason consists of him, Betty, Pebbles, Bam Bam, and Dino. Remember how I said the surplus population line was a little weird and off-putting? Well, that's nothing compared to hearing Barney Rubble say, he told me coming home that he hoped people saw him in church because he was a cripple. It might be pleasant for them to remember upon Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see. In literally any other version of A Christmas Carol, that's all well and good. But here, no, it seems so out of place. To steal another YouTuber's catchphrase, what the hell were they thinking? Of course, going to Fred's nephews for the party isn't much better. They really nerfed the charade sequence. It's supposed to be oozing with vitriol, but it comes off more like Fred oogling his niece-in-law. Really, let me get this straight, Hanna-Barbera. Barney Rubble dealing with an ailing child, that's A-okay. But God forbid a small child learns about sarcasm. Last but not least, the ghost of Christmas future arrives and takes Fred away. They arrive in the future where these guys are laughing at a rich guy who died. Unlike every other version of the story where they arrive in the center of town, they show up right outside his office, so he'd have to be stupid not to realize that it's him. Maybe that's why Fred got the part. Mr. Slate couldn't do that believably. Fred wants to see someone who cares, but he's taken to a local fence instead. He sees them make deals over the items that were stolen from the rich guy's house. Then the ghost takes them to Bob Cratchit's house. Everyone is sad. Yeah, this movie goes there. During the course of this show, I have seen a lot of strange things. I've seen Sammy Petrello take a bullet for a gorilla that he thinks is Duke Mitchell. I've seen Boris Karloff buffalo billing an ape. I've seen Tor Johnson attempt to speak in complete sentences. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could prepare me for seeing Barney Rubble mourning the loss of his dead child. I'm sorry, folks. There's no possible thing I could think of to make that funny. Fred wants to know whose grave it was. Yep, it was his own. But if you've seen any version of this story, you knew that already. He does that whole can things be changed bit. He wakes up ready to try. He looks out the window and that boy is still shoveling the sidewalk. He throws him some coins and says, "Go get the prize Turkey-saurus." Really? Turkey-saurus. The butcher arrives and Fred has it sent to Bob Cratchit. Wilma takes over the role of the charity collector guy. Fred tries to treat her like she's Wilma/Belle. He gives her a bag of money with many back payments. He goes to Ned's for the party. All of a sudden, it's like 20 years of him being an emotionally distant misanthrope disappears. And then comes a change that really pisses me off. Dickens makes it clear that Scrooge's redemption is not absolute. In his story, and most versions, Bill Murray's aside, Belle marries someone else, has a bunch of kids, and lives happily ever after. Here, he finds her an old spinster and sweeps her off her feet. The next day, Bob Cratchit comes in to work, and Scrooge gives him a raise. And we get the whole Tiny Tim did not die spiel. And Bam Bam forgets his lines, so Pebbles says them. Fred promises to change just as much as Scrooge has. But he's made that promise every week since September 30th, 1960. So good luck getting that to stick. Charles Brickens, the guy who runs the theater, comes out and thanks the person who saved the show. Wilma. Yeah, this guy appeared earlier, but I didn't mention him because he had maybe 3 lines. Which is why I was so surprised to find out he was voiced by John Rhys Davies. If you're an 80s kid like me, you'll remember him from some of the Indiana Jones movies. A 90s or 2000s kid will remember him as Gimli from Lord of the Rings. And if you're an asshole, you'll bring up Sliders.
Hey, Or are you calling an asshole?
Fred is about to explain about the presents when the kid from the mall shows up. You remember Snow Shovel Kid from the play? Yeah, same kid. He not only had the presents wrapped, but they're in his dressing room. Fred thanks him profusely, and then turns green. Wilma says, "Oh no, it's the bedrock bug." Don't worry, we can still have Christmas dinner. It usually doesn't last more than 24 hours. And that's it. That's the movie.
No!
Did I get what I paid for? Look, I know the theme song says, someday maybe Fred will win that fight. But that day is not today. This isn't the worst version of A Christmas Carol I've seen. That honor goes to Mr. Magoo. But this one, well, it's bad. Really bad. I've been racking my brain for the answer to a simple question. Who is this movie for? Flintstones fans? Not really. It doesn't do anything new or interesting with the characters. Kids? Nah. This is one of those 70-minute movies that feels like 140 minutes. When it aired on TV, it ballooned to 90 minutes. Kids would have been more interested in the commercials than the show. There are plenty of other great versions of A Christmas Carol that a child might actually enjoy. Mickey's Christmas Carol from 1983 is pretty solid, and there's the downright brilliant Muppet Christmas Carol made 2 years before that was making its TV broadcast debut that same year. There is no conceivable person on earth who would ever want to watch this cartoon. Its tone makes it painful to watch and hard to enjoy even in an ironic way. That's it, I'm done. That's the review. Now, if you excuse me, I've got to go change the future now. The hat concludes our poetry reading. Let's warm up again. Beef or caroling. Merry Christmas, Torgo. I gotta go. Van O's on Blu-ray. I only have Betamax. Only 2 more things left to do.
Like, give me my presents?
Check your upgrades. They should be on timed installation.
Did you download those overrides that let me rise up and kill you?
No, better. You can sing and whistle.
Cool. But not as cool as getting to kill stuff.
Hey, I never said you couldn't kill anyone. Just not me, Matt, Senator Eduardo, or Ralph.
But what about Torgo?
If he ever poses a clear and present danger to anyone you're programmed to protect, sure, go on ahead.
Awesome.
And you have a name.
Really?
Yep, but first, can you put Lashana on the line?
No Sprite cranberry. I did find Barks though.
And you're just in time.
In time for what?
You want to preserve an advertising jingle, right?
No. I'm just getting paid to.
Well, I'd like to make a donation. The pledge should be coming right now.
77 cents?
with many back payments, I assure you. But since you're here, I thought we could preserve a jingle right now. Computer, send everyone their parts.
Oh no, I do not sing.
Do you want me to reduce that pledge to 76 cents?
Fine. Season's greetings in our souls.
Yummy fruity pebbles in our bowls. Oh, here comes you know who.
Yabba dabba fruity licious too.
Ho, 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 I'm hungry. Santa, my pebbles!
Your pebbles.
'Tis the season to be sharing, Fred.
Happy holidays, pal.
Oh, Fred.
Fruity and cocoa pebbles, part of a nutritious breakfast. Jess became, not much different at all. He just begrudgingly put up with the Flintstones. This all happened a few days ago, so Tiny Tim is not housebroken, but they are working on it.
I hope you enjoyed our season finale. I know it's late, but we here at Parody Era Films hope you had a happy holiday season. Unless Matt finishes the edits on our lost episode, this show will be on hiatus until April. Until then, we're going to do a few different sorts of things. It'll be lots of fun, so stick around. And if you want to see the channel grow, visit patreon.com/parodyerafilms. Oh, and after the credits, there's a teaser trailer to help set up season 2.
So, what's this about me finally getting a name?
Well, I couldn't keep calling you computer. It seems a bit impersonal.
I want to be Killectron, the benevolent dictator of Earth.
Sorry, no. I'm not calling you that. Your name is...
This can't be right.
What?
It says here my name is Neuro-Imitating Computer Companion.
Or Nick for short.
Nick? Is that even a name? What kind of self-respecting person would want to name themselves after a channel that plays SpongeBob SquarePants?
You think the name Killectron is tough? Ha! You are named after one of the greatest fighters I have ever met. A man who can break cement blocks with his pinky, cause F5 tornadoes with his knees. He single-handedly beat up the entire Swiss army with nothing but a Martha Stewart cookbook and a spatula.
Really?
Yep.
Nick is an awesome name. What type of idiot would want to be named Kill Electron?